Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and I wanted to talk to you about the Safariland INCOG X holster, which is an inside the waistband appendix carry holster, which was recently put out by Safariland in partnership with Haley Strategic Partners. And honestly, I like Safariland products quite a bit. I suggest them when it comes to outside of the waistband carry or any type of duty capacity holster. So I wanted to try it out because I thought it could offer some benefits over some of the other holsters I use. And of course, Safariland has a great track record. But we're going to talk about some of the things I like about it today, and we're also going to talk about some of the things I don't like about it and what I think they should change when it comes to maybe a Gen 2 version of this holster. And I'm not trying to say I'm an expert or anywhere near the expertise of somebody like Travis Haley, who actually worked with Safariland on this holster, but as somebody who carries every day and carries appendix, I just have some opinions based on my experience of wearing this holster for months now. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of this holster and everything you need to know about it before you can make a choice on whether or not it's right for you, I do want to mention that Midway USA is the biggest supporter of the channel. And of course, thanks to them, I have access to gear like this holster that I can try out and then let you know the results. And honestly, a great thing about my Midway USA partnership is that they don't care if I say something negative or positive. They just want me to be honest with the viewers. So this is one of those videos where I'm not the biggest fan of this product. So let's get into it. I'll tell you all the specs and everything else you need to know. We'll compare it with one of the other holsters I use on a regular basis, and hopefully this gives you the information you need to make a good decision as to whether or not this is a good holster for you. So here's the INCOG X holster close up, and right now I've got my Glock 19 Gen 5 MOS in there just to demonstrate how that looks. We'll go ahead, clear that, make sure everything's safe and good to go, and then I have the spare magazine over here in the magazine caddy. And this holster runs $120. Right now they support Glocks as well as SIG P320s, and I think they're going to support other firearms in the future as well. They have light-bearing models as well as non-light-bearing models, and this one was specifically made for TLR7, but we'll talk about that more here in a little bit because there are some other things to consider when it comes to the light-bearing aspect of this holster. And then it's made out of Boltaron, and then it's wrapped in a suede microfiber material, which I actually really like. It feels like a hairless chihuahua, which is probably something from my childhood trauma, but I do like it quite a bit. It's comfortable against your skin, and it does get pretty warm in case that matters to you or not, but compared to like a standard Kydex holster, this thing gets a little bit hot down there. So I do like the material though. It makes it very comfortable. We have our retention screws. This one is right here designated by a red O-ring on the magazine caddy, obviously for the spare magazine. And then the other retention screw is here on the back for the firearm, and that's also designated by a red O-ring. So that's where those are. The clips are polymer, which is perfectly fine. You have two of them here right on the front, and then you have this claw system right here, which is for interacting with your belt, tucking the grip of the firearm into your abdomen a little bit tighter, and creating a pocket for grabbing the grip. We're going to talk about this whole system here in just a second, but I do want to mention that they actually give you an extra belt clip in the box, which I find to be really nice just in case something were to break, right? And they also provide you with additional hardware, like extra screws. So I think that's pretty forward thinking, and I like the fact that they want to make sure you have what you need in case anything were to break or possibly if a screw backed out and fell out or something like that. Now, this system is kind of cool. They give you 3 sizes of clip strut shims. And what's really nice about that is that it allows you to modify this to your personal comfort. I have the largest shim in right now, and what that allows me to do is tuck the grip of the firearm into my abdomen as much as possible while also creating a very large pocket underneath the grip so that when I go to draw, I have plenty of purchase on the grip. So I like that a lot, but in case that doesn't really work for you, they do give you other shims. I'll show you how easy it is to pop out. Just throw a little flathead in there. There's the shim, and then they give you 2 others, which I have right here. And these are just different thicknesses, so you can kind of modify it to what it is you want it to be. But I like the largest one because of the huge pocket it gives me in order to grab onto my firearm. So I like this system a lot. I have some critiques about it in general, but I like that it has these different shims. And I think that that was actually a big improvement over other holster designs that I've worked with before. So it does accommodate red dots, and I've got a red dot right here to show you that. And this is an Acro P2, so that's a monster of a red dot for a pistol, and it fits in there no problem. Now, it is very close to this clip, and there are some things you would have to consider regarding this particular clip and your red dot optic based on the configuration of the holster that you're working with. So I would go ahead and consider that before grabbing this holster. I'm going to talk about that here more in a minute because I have some pros and some cons about this holster. And then I have some design changes that I would make if it were up to me that I think would make this holster better and probably be like the main go-to holster for me if these changes were to be had in like a Gen 2 model. So first, let's talk about the pros. The biggest pro right now, at least in my opinion, is this Bolteron material. It seems very durable, and I like that it's wrapped in this suede microfiber material. I like it quite a bit. It's very comfortable, and I don't know, it just feels nice, and it feels very high quality, and the holster itself feels very durable. So I like that a lot about it. And then it also is adjustable. So that's the other pro I have for this holster. I like that it has the Shims system here. I think that that's kind of neat. It definitely allows me to get a really good grip on the pistol, and just to kind of demonstrate that, right? We show that this is unloaded, but you can see that there's this decent gap right here between this claw system and the grip, but look how much further it sticks out compared to the grip of the pistol. So when you're going down to grab, there's a lot of space there, right? And I barely just miss my knuckle most of the time on that, and that's just kind of par of the course for me with holsters, but I really like that. It gives me a lot of purchase on the firearm. So I find that to be extremely beneficial. And those are the two biggest pros for this holster, at least in my opinion. The only other pro that there is, which I hope actually works the way it's supposed to, is that the light-bearing model seems to work with more than one light. So I bought this one specifically for the TLR7. But if you go on their website and switch the light that you're trying to use for this holster to the Surefire XC1, let's say, right? A similar light in the sense of size and just how far off the barrel it actually goes. Well, it has the same exact model number as this holster. So my thought, or what I understand, is that the TLR7 model will actually fit a Surefire XC1 as well, which means that some future lights that we're all anticipating, like, I don't know, the XR1A, I don't know what that is, but anyway, it should be able to fit in this holster. So there's not a lot of holsters on the market for some of those lights out there, like the XC1, right? But there's a ton for the TLR7, and then this holster might let you do both, which I do think is pretty cool. I haven't tested that myself, but it does seem that the model numbers remain the same on Safariland's website when you make that change. So that's the pros, right? Let's talk about the cons. One of the cons I had immediately was that the hardware seems to loosen pretty easily. Like, I've been wearing this holster for a little over 2 months now, and I've had to retighten the screws multiple times. And that can be something that has happened to me before with Safariland products, but in general, it loosens quite a bit. So if you're wearing this holster, you're gonna wanna double check your hardware on a regular basis and make sure that everything is well retained. So, let's talk about some design changes, okay? Now, I'm basically comparing this holster to like a T-Rex arm sidecar, okay? I don't know if I can get them both fully in the frame. We can be friends, it's fine. So the T-Rex arm sidecar is the holster I generally use, and I have been using for quite a long time. And there are things about this I like much better than this holster, but I wanted to try this because I like Safariland, and I trust their products, and I thought that this collaboration with Haley Strategic Partners would, lead me to something more improved. But in all reality, I still like this holster better for a few reasons. And I think if some of the design philosophies from this were applied to this, we would have a real winner here. But we have to actually apply those philosophies. So what do I mean by that? Well, first off, I'm going to go ahead and throw a graphic up here that shows exactly what I would change. So that way, if Safariland or somebody else is watching, they can actually see what I think would be a good idea. And maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm wrong about this. But here's what I would do to fix this holster, okay? First off, it needs a thicker O-ring for retention. And what do I mean by that? So this O-ring right here, well, I had to add an additional rubber O-ring inside to get this screw to where it would be tight enough to give me good retention without being so loose that it would fall right out. And if I had it with the original O-ring that it came with and tighten it down to where the screw was tight enough to not fall out, then the pistol could barely come out of the holster. So I added an additional rubber O-ring in there and it fixed the problem, but I shouldn't have had to do that with a brand new holster, right? So they either need to get a larger O-ring in there or they need to give you another O-ring with the additional hardware. That way you can make that adjustment if you feel it's necessary. But I had to do that to fix this because otherwise the gun's not coming out or this hardware is just falling out. So I didn't want to actually have to choose between those two, so I fixed it myself. Now, another problem is that the magazine carrier is slaved to the clip, right? That's how you attach it. The problem with that is that it restricts the magazine carrier's position to what the clip is restricted to. So I need this to actually be higher for it to be more comfortable and a little bit more accessible. But if I raise this any bit higher, you will see that it will interact with my red dot sight. Now that might not apply to every red dot sight on the market, but I'm sure it would apply to a lot of them based on the fact that even the open emitter sights generally have the housing up front, not in the rear, right? So to me, that's an issue that should be fixed, where I should be able to either have the mag carrier somewhere else that's already designated, or I don't know, permanently affixed, or just have these two separate in the sense of elevation adjustment for both of them. That way I can have this clip where it needs to be, and then I can have this mag carrier where it needs to be separately. Now, an issue I have with this clip, you can see right here, there's actually holes on the bottom corners right here, right? Well, you could just move the clip down and the mag carrier down, and you're not going to interact with your red dot sight at all, right? Well, here's the problem. This material down here needs to come off. That's my opinion. Why? Well, if you remove this material, it creates less hot spots in your pelvis because you don't have these corners jutting out trying to hit you in between your thighs, right? And you can see with the T-Rex arms holster that that's what they tried to do there. They removed that material for that exact reason, at least in my opinion, because it seems to work very well in comparison. Now, the other reason for that is because if you mount these clips that low, you will have a very bad fulcrum in the holster. And what I mean by that is that it will apply pressure to your pelvis way down here because of now how low you have your belt clips. And that pressure is because of the weight of the top of the pistol pulling away from your body and pushing into your pelvis. And with those clips that much lower, you're changing that fulcrum point down to here instead of maybe here. And it really makes a huge difference in that pressure that it starts to push onto your body. So those are the main things I would change. If you changed all those things, this holster would be a lot better, at least in my opinion. But as of right now, I think it needs those changes to be fully developed, let's just say. And this holster from T-Rex Arms is $140 in this configuration, and this holster is $120. So this is more expensive, but I do find this holster more comfortable in the sense of not having hot spots and not having fulcrum points in bad areas, and it just does the job. I like it a lot. The retention is great. It's not too tight, but also it allows you to still get a good draw. The only other thing that this holster does better maybe is the feeling of the material, which really doesn't matter a whole lot, let's be honest, but it does have a better pocket for the grip compared to the claw system. So I get a little more space here, which is nice for not racking my knuckle on the holster every time I draw. Whereas you can see with the T-Rex Arms holster, it's a little bit closer. There's not quite as much space, and I definitely rack my knuckle on this holster a lot more. As you can see here with that draw, like it's like in there. Like I'm touching the holster with my knuckle, right? And I can probably demo that a little bit better here. Whereas like here, I'm not touching that claw with my finger at all. And this claw is slightly adjustable, slaved to the clip once again. So maybe the claw not being, attached to the clip would also be another good design improvement because of maybe wanting these two to be separate for that reason. So you don't bust your knuckle on the claw, but you have the clip where it needs to be. So that's what I would do to fix this thing. That is my main complaint about the holster, which, I guess is a lot of complaints in all honesty. For something that was worked on by, two great companies who are well respected in the firearms genre and have done a lot of great work for the community, I just wouldn't have expected some layman like myself to feel like these design changes were necessary and, I don't know, easily found by me. I mean, I guess I just feel like these should have been figured out before. So this just kind of feels like an incomplete product, especially this mag carrier setup. It just doesn't feel like it was, integrated into the original design. It feels like it was an afterthought, like big time, right? So let me give you my final thoughts, but hopefully that gives you all the information you need on this holster and gives you some considerations to make before purchasing it. So my overall experience with the INCOG X holster is that it's just okay. Like if you don't already have a holster and you're looking for an appendix carry holster and you want one from a reputable manufacturer that's pretty well thought out and offers some versatility as well as some adaptability to new lights that might be coming out on the market, then the INCOG X is not a bad option. But if you already have an appendix carry holster that you like, it's not worth going out and getting this one just to try out, at least in my opinion. I think that there's some upgrades or some changes that they should make in the next generation of these holsters to make them a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more user-friendly outside of the box when it comes to the retention and everything else that requires a little bit of adjustment for it to work properly. So all in all, it's not a bad holster. There's nothing particularly wrong with the holster, I guess, in general, but for the cost and for the money, there are some other better options out there. And if you already have a holster, you definitely don't need to just try this one just because I just did it for you, and hopefully I'm saving you some time and energy by telling you this about it. So, hey, if Safariland listened to me at all in this video, hopefully they make some of those changes. If I'm completely wrong, let me know in the comments below. That's something that we can discuss, but this is just my personal experience and not necessarily a recommendation. So anything else you need from me at all, go to magicprepper.com. And besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.